Welcome everybody to the newest episode of the Zero Budget Podcast, pre-recorded. I'm your host, Juptej Singh. With me as always is my co-host, Matthew Hanks. Matthew, how have you been, buddy?
Doing fine. I've had a little bit of a tiring week. A lot of working in the AM. Got a new mic though.
Got a new mic. You sound great. You sound bumping.
Thank you. Yes.
I can hear your sultry voice just pulsating through my ears.
Well, that's a interesting adjective.
You don't think your voice is sultry?
I don't know what sultry means.
Doesn't it mean like smooth and sensual?
I just told you I don't know what it means.
Let me look it up while you continue with your rambling.
So I'm still at school. That hasn't been canceled yet. Right now, our school is winning in not having the most COVID cases.
Whoop!
Right now, we only have 27 confirmed cases.
Dub.
Compared to that's the dub. We're taking it. Compared to JMU that now has 1,200.
12 fucking hundred? Wait, actually?
I'm not kidding.
1,200 cases in one fucking school. Didn't they already get sent back though?
Oh yeah, they got sent back at like 1,000.
Jeez.
But some people are staying on campus / in Harrisonburg.
Huh. I checked Rowan to see if maybe we could beat you because I thought they'd been staying relatively safe. Turns out from August 25th, we've had 131 cases. So good thing I'm not on campus, huh?
Yeah, I mean, there's compared to some of the other states in school. I think Radford is about to hit their 400 mark.
Yeah, some of them have just been soaring.
I'm shocked ODU hasn't had too many cases, but maybe they do.
They do seem like the type to just absolutely.
Well, then the Hampton Roads area, aka that one area that fucked up Virginia's numbers for a bit.
Yes, sir.
Oh, good old Hampton Roads.
Okay, here's what sultry means. You ready?
Yeah.
Are you braced?
I'm sultry.
Fantastic. Sultry means of a person, especially a woman, attractive in a way that suggests a passionate nature. So I would call your voice sultry. Some synonyms: sensual, voluptuous, seductive, provocative. This is the 18 plus episode of the Zero Budget Podcast because now we can take that full effect.
Thank you.
My week's been pretty all right as well.
Oh, I was about to ask
you for asking,
right.
you piece of shit. What have I done this week? Well, we set up that new series that we'll talk about later, which was a very exciting part of the week. I watched some movies. I did some schoolwork. Here's the thing about that. Okay, it's really nice to do it early because then you get the feeling of like, I don't have anything else to do for the rest of the week. But at the same time, I would so much rather do literally anything else.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
it's that battle.
I've had this complication with school recently because whilst I'm like doing quite well in my classes right now, I'm just not like learning anything.
Mm-hmm.
I've had 3 weeks in my international security classes, and all I've learned is U.S. has big military and economy. That means we can do things.
Yeah,
and I'm just like USA. There are some like things that I've already had knowledge on, but now are expanded. But it doesn't feel like I'm really learning anything or like retaining it at least. And that's one thing that sucks about online courses because I know I'm not the only person who feels like that.
Yeah. What class is this for?
Huh?
What class is this for?
It's for all of them.
Oh, all of them. You're just not learning shit.
Yeah. I guess really specifically my government classes, which is 3 of them. 3 out of the 5. But the professors are chill, so I kind of like it. So
that's good. That's very good.
That's my rant on online schooling.
Yeah. Should we go ahead and just get into it then?
I think let's just jump right into it.
Jump right into it. So yeah, folks, friends, family, loved ones. We are gathered here, countrymen. We are gathered here today to discuss a tweeter that we saw earlier this week, which I'm now struggling as hard as I possibly can to pull up.
Tweet.
Whoa, there it is. All right. So it's not really just about this tweet. It's more about the general sentiment that exists in a lot of places within the leftist sphere. Is this idea that if you're a leftist, but you didn't used to be a leftist, or you weren't always a leftist, that somehow detracts from where you are now. Mm-hmm. Which me and Matt both thought was very interesting as former reactionaries.
I wouldn't
you
call myself necessarily a reactionary. I'd call myself a moderate / centrist beforehand.
I think I might call myself a reactionary. I was pretty up there. I mean, I was watching Steven Crowder and thinking, damn.
Yeah, see, no, I wasn't.
Okay. So
I always thought those fools were kind of dumb.
So let me go ahead and read this tweet. White leftists telling other white leftists that it's okay that they used to be fascists. No, baby, it's not actually. White communist Twitter, you guys are really extremely weird on here. If you're getting mad at this tweet, that's your problem. Don't get mad at me for not trusting you in ex-fascist. Please donate to the black trans women in this thread.
Now please give us money.
Yeah. So there were a couple thoughts that we had, and so we thought we would pretty much dedicate this episode to talking about sort of our journey. This is our thesis, our journey into the left, what the problem is in the kind of thinking that's displayed in that post, and what else? That's it. Those two things.
That's really it.
Those are the two things.
I think before getting on to our journey to the left, I think really we should deconstruct the now in the AK, that tweet.
Yeah.
So I think it has a lot of issues and a lot of issues of people. Honestly, the reason why I stayed away from the left for a bit, honestly. Mm-hmm. And that's because, just general gatekeeping.
100%.
Yeah, just oh, you changed your mind after learning new facts? Get out of here, all right? Yep. We don't want you here, Chief. What? You weren't a leftist when you were 10? Get out of here.
Yeah.
And it's just the whole point of politics, especially, the discourse and debate, is to hopefully at least get someone to change their mind or at least be more informed on something. Yeah. So when you're literally counteracting that and then yelling at people who are upset about you, it's kind of back in 2015, 2016, when a bunch of people on the left, even just the moderate left, who just called Trump supporters actual Nazis when they're just caring about trade and stuff.
Yeah.
And they're fine, I'll be an actual Nazi then.
That's true. I mean, the big problem, I think, and we'll get into this a little when we get into our stories, is politics, or the political space for a lot of people, can be a social space. And the right is so much better at using that and exploiting that efficiently than the left is. Because the right recognizes that, takes people in, and turns them into advocates, right?
Yeah.
Whereas the left, I feel a lot more often will be in their space and shut off that space.
Yeah.
To only people who think like them. And I think that's totally fine for social spaces. We can sit here and we can be echo chambers are bad, which, yeah, but it's your own social space. Do whatever the fuck you want. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But in terms of advocacy, and in terms of quote unquote letting people into the leftist space, we're just really awful at not recognizing what it is that people seek when they go into politics. One of the tweets that I saw was it was something like, what you're doing when you say these things is you're actively shutting people out. You're saying, hey, you're not going to be accepted socially here, so turn your ass around. And then somebody retweeted that and said, "Ah, yes, I get into politics because it's a social space or something." And it's like, by that tweet, you've shown me that you do, right? Because you have people who are, I would say, arguably more passionate. A lot of times, like we see this with people who convert to different religions and stuff. They they genuinely believe in it, which is why they've switched their thoughts. You know what I mean? Um, you have these people that are willing and ready to engage in advocacy and to get out there and start doing some work. And you're saying, sorry, but you used to watch Ben Shapiro, so we can't accept you into advocacy? It's clear that you don't really give a shit about the actual issues at hand or furthering the cause in any sort of way. You just want to be comfortable with the people you're around. And that's fine, but don't then say you can't vote for Bernie because you used to. It's dumb shit. It's childish.
It'd be kind of like a real world example if like Ed Markey, who just won his mass primary, because like he voted for the Iraq War, the crime bill and stuff like that. He did some questionable things in the early 2000s, but like recently, he had a change of heart and he went more to the left. Like if you like wanted to co-sponsor Bernie's health bill, but Bernie's just like, you voted for the Iraq War, get out of here. Like that'd be dumb. I think if you're like another thing the left is really bad at is taking allies where they are. It's they have a thing for like values and stuff. And sometimes, honestly, that's just not how politics work.
Yeah. I mean, that
sometimes you compromise is a thing.
That's the thing about an ideology that's rooted in egalitarianism is you get moral superiority within the people that practice it. So one of the big things that I've seen is, sorry, I actually used to have empathy, or I actually always had empathy, or some shit like that. And I think this is the thing that I sort of talked about when I watched the RNC, is that it's super important to actually look at the shit that's being fed to some of these people, because it really does. It preys on a weak mindset, or not necessarily a weak mindset, but it preys on people, and especially the alt-right pipeline circa 2016. It was all like straw men and hyperbolizing, but it was a huge wave of internet content. So it made it seem like that's what the left was. And then they sort of lead you down this rabbit hole, which again, the right is very good at and the left not so much. So it's weird to blame someone who fell down that area and then got back out for, I would argue, the left's failure, or is that a little bit of a muddy area?
I don't know.
I mean, because I feel like it's almost impossible to say that the left succeeded in garnering the online space. I mean, you have Ben Shapiro, Steven Crowder, Richard Spencer, Sargon of Akkad, Stephen Molyneux. You have these whole hosts of right-wing political commentators, and the biggest one that the left has is who? ContraPoints?
I don't even know who that is.
Yeah, I think ContraPoints
the thing
has
with
around
the left, admittedly, on the online space is there are less huge ones, but there are more like moderate sized ones, while the right just has like a few big ones.
Yeah. But I think there's a reason for that. And, I don't know. Is now
I actually, funny enough, you bring up the internet.
I do bring up the internet, Matt. What about it?
That's not how I started politics, actually, shockingly enough. Yeah. I guess let's talk about our journey to the left, shall we?
Let's do it. Let's get into it.
So my journey starts all the way back in good old 2012. 8 years ago. Uh,
Oh,
I guess
Baba.
I guess really like 2011 when the 2012 race started. So 9 years ago.
Hmm.
Uh, I was a shithead 11-year-old, so I didn't really have a nuanced view on politics. But I did actually really only get my news from like Jon Stewart, which is interesting because that's really who my dad watched a lot. And honestly, shocking. It's funny because it's not like the worst place to get your news at least at that
Yeah,
point.
Jon Stewart was. I miss Jon Stewart. He was
Yeah, I
great.
miss him. Yeah, but I kind of I knew like the basic concepts like of Romney's infamous 47% comment, his binder of
What was
women.
that? I wasn't like in tune. I was
Oh,
like
so
10. So
basically, Romney was at this like private fundraiser event, and someone recorded his speech there, and he was like, "Listen, 47% of the nation is automatically going to vote for Barack," and he was
ooh,
referring to how much of the people are on some form of welfare.
ooh,
Yeah, oof.
ooh.
And that's why Obama ran with that election.
Yeah.
But I mean, that was, and after that, I mean, I knew,
47%? Is that
yeah, or something
real?
like that. I think so. It was like a good percent. And then Obama actually ran with that number. He's like, yeah, 47% of like great people or some shit, insert Obama line.
And
uh,
nobody focused on the fact that 47% of the fucking country is on welfare? Holy shit.
uh, at least I think that's what it was. It was a while ago.
Yeah,
My memory's a
I'll
bit
look that
foggy.
up because that's fucking insane. Mitt
But
Romney, 47. Keep talking.
for a while, I didn't really like watch. Like, I was really only interested in politics because it was entangled with my atheistic views. I really more watched like atheist YouTubers and like them debunking like really dumb evangelical videos and such.
Uh-huh.
And that was fine and all. But then they started making some more new content on debunking really dumb extremist ideologies, really, as I like to call, pink hair leftism.
Yeah.
Uh, like your college students who are just like, we need a trigger warning for like Tom Sawyer,
Yeah.
And I was just like, yeah, that's a little silly Billy. But weirdly enough, it's also how I found out about other left views because I
Uh-huh.
like to pride myself a little bit because the quote skeptic community, as I'm going to refer to them, which really was just the atheist community evolved into the political sphere. Uh, they did introduce me to stuff like Medicare for all, free college. Free college is actually the first thing that I was really truly lefty on.
Yeah.
Because I actually really didn't know how healthcare worked, so I was just like, I just won't touch it. But I was like, I know like college
Not gonna
works,
go
so
there. College, free healthcare.
for what is healthcare? Uh, but Yeah, and then years roll by. 2014 is the first time I actually had like a debate with a right winger uh, at lunch in high school, and I was like, "Hey, college should be free because like it would give good opportunities for lower income people," and they're like, "No." I was like, "What do you mean no? Why not?" And they're like,
That really is the only counter argument. Huh? It's always just no.
and they was just like, "It would cost too much." I was like, "Well, like just like change the budget," and they're like, "No," and I was like, "What do you mean no?"
No. We need to spend twice as much as any other government on our military.
More like 3 times. Uh, but I mean, where were you located around 2014 ish, if at anywhere?
2014, I was 12.
Okay, never
So
mind then.
I was no, I was actually I was in
Yeah.
my school's debate club.
Wow.
Yeah, I was awful, and we never
All right,
placed.
fair enough.
But because of that, I was sort of, what would I label myself? I feel like I was progressive in sentiment, um, but I was actually more of like a centrist. Um,
Mhm.
because I would always like the debates where you had to research both sides, and
Mhm.
I would always be like, everyone has good points. You know what I mean? It's
Mhm.
all about how you debate them. And I still kind of think that's true. I
Yeah.
think anybody can make a good argument and anybody can make a bad argument. in most cases. But yeah, I sort of fell along those lines, and yeah, I don't know. It's weird because when I was 12, I was more focused on just being a little shit than I was about electoralism or any
Yeah.
shit like that. But debate was a really like formative time for me in my politics.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to describe what I was when I was younger because like I just didn't know that much. I was only like, interested in like, a few topics, you know,
Yeah.
and like just like the general sphere. Like I wouldn't really call myself a progressive slash leftist, but I also wouldn't really call myself anything else at that time
Mm-hmm.
because just nothing fits. Maybe just like a liberal or
Yeah.
just like moderate
Liberal.
left, you know.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm about to get into that. So 2015 is when I started like really watching these um, skeptics YouTube channel.
Skeptosphere.
Yeah, I think some of them are good,
Mm-hmm.
and I think some of them are still good today. I think one of my favorites at the time and still now is Chris Ray-Gun, who I think
Isn't he a leftist now?
I mean he always kind of was.
Uh-huh.
I think he's just gotten more left recently.
Gotcha.
I think your good old buddy Vosh followed him recently, and everyone called Chris a communist because of it.
Yeah, they did a debate or something, or a conversation. I don't know. I didn't watch that.
But yeah, I mean, like I watched a couple of people like that. The only person I really ever who I first started watching, who I thought was good, and then he made a video was good old Sargon of Akkad. Oh no,
Sargon.
something
Sargon of
changed.
Akkad.
I remember something changed in Sargon because like I remember watching and I was like, okay, this is bad because I still was not very much into right wing views personally. But then he made a video in like a couple months before the 2016 election where he basically just called Hillary the devil, and I was like, wait, hold on, no, that's not correct, Chief. I mean, not like Hillary, but like I wouldn't call her the devil.
I would call her the devil. Looking
all right,
back,
that's fair.
yeah.
Yeah, but like he was more just like she's the devil, but Trump,
King.
savior, king,
King.
king shit. And that's kind of when I started like questioning some things. But I didn't want to identify as a liberal because that was like the era of like getting owned libs
Yeah.
and stuff. And I was just like, well, I'm not like that, you know. So I'll call myself a classical liberal to like seem different, I guess.
Yeah, because
even
that
though
means
like
something.
it definitely meant something different back then.
Yeah.
I will admit, people on the left, I think nowadays called themselves a classical liberal as well because they didn't want to be associated with that pink hair leftism.
Yeah, I think a lot of leftists has sort of reappropriated that term as well as like libertarian, because I think both of those in the American parlance have sort of fallen into really a more right-wing category.
Yeah.
But then leftists are like, no, we are the true classical liberals.
Yes.
Where was I 2016? 2016. Oh, that's a very interesting story.
I don't think we knew each other just yet.
We didn't. I was a freshman.
Yeah.
And 2016, you're right. That was the whole blue hair feminist. Sort of anti-feminist, anti-SJW wave on YouTube. And people, a lot of leftists I've seen talk about this like it wasn't a real thing.
Oh, it definitely was.
But it was, and it's really important to know that. I mean, you have people like H3 who made videos about BuzzFeed talking about manspreading that have millions of views. Millions of views. They were some of the biggest videos, biggest topics. I mean, anti-BuzzFeed was like huge at the time.
Yeah.
Like collectively, they have to be in like the hundreds of millions. It was insane. So again, I think it's so important to recognize that these are actual things, because if you don't and if you ignore them, you make the same mistake you did in 2016. You
Yeah.
allow people to get sucked right into it. So yeah, it was a thing. Um, and I was a very edgy little freshman boy.
Oh, yes, you were.
Very edgy little freshman boy, as Twitter well knows. Um, I would say the N word. I would say the F word. I would say not fuck the slur.
I was trying to say, huh?
I would say pretty much like any slur that would come to mind because it was fun to be edgy. I watched Leafy. I watched Keemstar. Um, and I think that's when I sort of started to not started to. That's when I was a reactionary. Um, like I thought it was like fun to piss people off, and it was really just because I was a sad little fuck who didn't really fit into the social spaces that he thought he would fit into.
Yeah,
Um,
it's
yeah,
kind of weird because like I was just saying, I would say like edgy things as well, but then I would go and be like, well, healthcare should also be free because I mean I was a pretty big Bernie bro at the
like a
time.
Nosball.
Yeah, a little bit, just like yeah, edgy thing. Anyways, college should be free, and here's why.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's because I still held those leftist views, but like I was also part of that anti SJW like era. I ain't gonna lie, chief.
Yeah, and
You
I
know,
think I think for the most part I was sort of right along that same path. Um like I think in terms of my I was never like a Trump supporter,
yeah.
but I was one
Oh,
of those people that would like, hey, Democrats and Republicans, they're all the same. I mean, fuck these feminists, you know what I mean? And then haha, woman make me sandwich or some dumb, like fucking
yeah,
stupid, very dumb meme culture. Um and the whole like it's just a joke reactionary type shit.
yeah.
Um I was super super into that like well into I would say my sophomore year.
So 1 year later,
Yeah. And it was also a thing of like I it really was a thing of social space now that I'm looking back at it because I in debate there were a lot more like left-leaning people around me, and I think sort of in 8th grade is where I started to go to places that weren't school. Like I would visit my aunt and we would talk to some of like the people in that area in like Jersey area. Um and we'd get together at like family gatherings and stuff, and I would realize like, hey, I really don't fit in here. Like being this fucking Harry Potter loving little nerd bitch boy. Like I like this is really not my space. And then I started saying the N word, and that fixed nothing. But
oh,
I mean,
I thought that fixed everything.
no, dude, the N word.
Oh wait,
Yeah, I don't know. It 100% is a thing of if you don't feel welcome, you're not gonna stay. And I didn't feel welcome in the areas where I needed to feel welcome. I didn't feel welcome around my family. I didn't feel welcome around other six. Um so I started looking for validation outside of that, and where I found it was in these spaces,
Mhm.
you know?
Yeah. You mentioned saying things just to like make people mad. I remember I didn't do that in like my senior year because my senior year I took government AP, and you know good old Flynn, uh
King.
uh
Shout out.
King. But you know we had to like not do debates, but you know we had those discussion board stuff or you know those discussion thingies at the beginning of class every day, and I would always try to do because I think it was more just challenging my viewpoints at the time. I would always just try to take the opposite side of whatever the room was thinking.
Mm-hmm.
and basically play devil's advocate, which is funny because it changed people's perception of me.
You
They really
love
thought I
that.
was a Nazi
You
probably.
love that devil's advocate, huh?
It was just because I was really into debate at the time, so like it
Yeah.
was just fun for me, really. Uh, but it was funny because we took that political test thingy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't remember what score I got, but I remember it was like the moderate score, and like literally everyone in the class was like, "You're more left than I expected." I was like, "I literally want free healthcare in college. Like, what else do you think?" Like, just because I'm like on moderate on some issues,
Yeah.
it's just like,
Yeah.
and yeah, I think that's kind of like why I stopped doing that later my senior year, and then like into college especially because I was like, yeah, maybe I don't want people to like be shocked
Mm-hmm.
that I'm a decent person. Uh, but yeah, 2017 is really when I started going back, like when I kind of more accepted that I was a liberal slash left leaning because I was just like, oh wait, Orange Man actually bad.
Very bad.
Yeah, I mean, in 2017 he wasn't the worst yet. He just made a lot of terrible decisions. Like
Yeah.
when he did a Muslim ban in his first 100 days. Remember that?
No, it wasn't a Muslim ban. It was a ban on the Arabs.
No, wait, no, but he banned travel from North Korea, so it can't be a Muslim ban.
It was just to block out the terrorists. So I don't know what the big deal is. Do you want this country to be safe?
Yeah, and that's funny. It's where I started watching Steven Crowder, but not because I agreed with him.
The
It's because
boy.
I would watch Steven Crowder and be like, wait, people actually think this? I thought it was a joke. you
Uh,
know?
like the other side, like the left side.
Well, because this is where I kind of like started challenging my point of views and stuff. Like, because I was like, maybe what if I am not left leaning and I just don't know it or some shit like that?
Yeah.
Because I was still very much into the anti-SJW. Uh, so that's when I started watching like Ben Shapiro and like Steven Crowder, and then I was like, oh no, never mind. I'll go back to the left now, I guess, because like they just would spout on about like nonsense. I'm just like, dog, shut the fuck up. You
Yeah.
know, like Steven Crowder and Ben Shapiro are both climate change deniers. Like I remember I watched like Steven Crowder's like top like 4 or 5 climate change myths, and I was just like, no, bro, you're just dumb.
Yeah. I remember I started watching Steven Crowder because, and I think this is what a lot of people fall into, is that he gives the air of centrism.
Mm-hmm.
Like he acts like, hey, I believe this. Anybody can come over and debate me on it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Anybody can come over, except he only debates college kids. He
Yeah.
doesn't announce where he's going to be. He doesn't announce when he's going to be there. He comes with a binder full of fucking information. And most importantly, he has the microphone. He's able to edit the videos to whatever the fuck he wants. He can pick any of the conversations. So obviously, he's going to pick the most dipshit lefty who has no idea what they're saying and be like, ha ha ha, get a load of this guy. When
Yeah.
it's just some fucking kid that's probably coming back from Qdoba and saw this dude that's like, hey, gay people shouldn't have rights, and they're like, wait a second, that's not, no, wait.
And then Crowder would bring up some like either like very obscure fact or just like obscured fact and be like, well, don't you know? Because like gay people make other people gay. So
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
should they exist?
yeah.
you
And I
know?
remember he did this thing a lot where he would argue with the straw man, and all conservatives do this. They like there was this one leftist dude. I forgot exactly what the conversation was, but it was like a big moment where he said the R slur, the leftist. And clearly this was like one of the dirtbag lefties where they're like, hey, I believe college, but also I'm an edgy boy. So yeah, so he said the R slur, and then Steven Crowder was just like, "Whoa, hey, we're leftist. Oh, hey, we don't say that kind of stuff here or whatever." And then
I do
meanwhile,
remember that.
he's like, "We should kill protesters" or some shit.
Yeah,
Like,
like that.
and he got like his panties all up in a twist, and it was like a big moment because everybody was like, "Oh my god, is Steven Crowder a snowflake?"
I think one thing that really solidified that I was not going to really go anywhere near the right anymore was Tucker Carlson.
That
Oh my
fucking
god.
greasy fucking
I
piece of
I
shit.
never liked Tucker Carlson, even when he debuted a show like in 2017.
That
I
greasy.
remember because our friend Bennett did like Tucker Carlson. I was like, no, you Dumbo, he's
Yeah.
terrible. Like,
All these motherfuckers are grifters. I mean, you have the
yeah,
whole thing of like with Steven Crowder, like people that have gone on his show have said things like, "Hey, he doesn't actually act like that in real life. Him on his program is a much different character than him off." And then you also have reports of like trans people that have gone on there, like Blair White, who's gone on there. And then afterwards, like he just sincerely apologizes and said shit like, "Hey, that's just my job." So there's like huge rumors that that's like that Steven Crowder's a grift, and we know Tucker Carlson's a grift.
and Candace Owens especially.
Candace Owens, these
A lot of new populist quotation marks right wingers that popped up during the Trump era. Because I mean, like, I'll give Crowder this one thing. I don't think he's faking being a conservative or a populist in that sense. Because I mean, he's been doing it for years. I mean, he did punch a labor union guy, so in like 2009 or some shit like that.
yeah, I think he's a conservative, but I don't think he's nearly
Well,
as
he definitely like
conservative as it
started like
puts
hyping
off.
his shit up around the Trump era. Let's just
Like
say, you know.
I think he's low key based. There's a hot take. I think he's fucking. I think he's an anarcho communist.
I don't think that because an anarcho-communist wouldn't have punched a labor unionist.
Nah, dude, Steven Crowder is a he has a USSR flag flying high in his bedroom.
He does kind of look like the white version of Che Guevara.
He does. And have you ever seen them in the same room?
Che Guevara is dead.
So, no. Just think about it.
All right, I'm thinking about it.
Where were we?
2017, around 2017.
2017.
So my senior year, your sophomore year.
This is when we became friends.
Yes.
Yeah, and we were part of the edgy little group. Not really edgy group, just you, me, and Karen. And yeah, I think that's really what kind of defined us as friends, is just that we were a little edgier
Yeah.
than everybody else. And by a little edgier, I mean we would say the N-word. But after that, I sort of took a backseat in politics. I don't remember why I stopped saying the N-word, but I just did. Like, maybe I just had different friends, but I genuinely just stopped saying it because. And then I started getting more friends in the Sikh sphere, so I started getting more into Sikhi. And then I started saying the N-word again. And then after that, I remember I stopped because I was straight up just like, this doesn't feel right anymore. Because that's when I started getting hard into leftism. That's when I started watching, like, I got into, are we talking about like how we actually got into it now?
I was going to sum up 2018, 2019 real quick, but
Yeah,
yeah,
go
sure.
ahead and do that. Go ahead and do that.
Because I actually had also had a similar experience where I kind of, when I got into college, I took a break. And I was just like, listen, because at that time I thought like, yeah, Orange Man not good. Like, I really didn't like when people would just say Orange Man bad. I was just like, why? You know, like I don't like Trump that much, but like I wouldn't say Orange Man like a fascist yet.
Yeah.
And
Same.
so, and that's kind of just what the news cycle, you know, it was just like CNN, MSNBC be like Orange Man bad because I don't know, his tie is too long or some shit.
Or hey,
and then
look, he trip. He no president if he trip. Hey,
he drinks while there are two hands.
Hey, Republican, how come he were president if he no speak no good?
And then Fox would just be like, Fox would be like, Trump, yes. And I was just kind of done with that shit. So I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna like, even though I'm a government major, I'm just away from politics, except like unless something really important happens. Uh, I mean, like I think I paid attention to the 2018 midterms because I voted in them,
Mm-hmm.
but like I was still not very actively, and I don't think I really did until like later 2018.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I started thinking like, okay, it's politics time again, I guess.
Yeah. I started getting into it again my senior year. Hold on, I'm gonna go get my charger. My like battery's like super low. I'll be right back. I'll just cut this part out unless you want to ramble about something like I do when
I'll
you're gone.
ramble. All right, I'll ramble. So I think I'm gonna ramble. Funny enough, Juptej talks about communism. I'll talk about communism, and I think I'll talk about how it's in the now is a very unrealistic standard to set, and I think even in the near future, because the thing about communism, it is in all essence a very anarchical ideology in the sense, there is no state. Um, and I feel like with a lot of communists, they like to jump the gun in that aspect. And that's what we saw in the USSR. Lenin and the Bolsheviks literally just like took over and they're like, all right, here's communism now. But what they realize is not everyone's going to immediately agree on some ideas on how a communist state should be ran. So thus, they need to be an authoritarian government so they can make everyone agree on the terms and then dissolve the state. And I think that's just unrealistic for like today's standard. Like literally the whole world would not its system of government. Oh, you're back.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I agree with everything you just said.
All right. That's on the record.
Fantastic. I started getting into politics again in around. It was when school started up again, senior year. Because of Gov and everything. Gov was very interesting. Like I always loved debating, as debate club would have you believe. So I really liked being involved in those conversations. That's when I don't think I was a full on leftist because I was a Yang Gang guy. And I think Yang is just a capitalist. I think Yang is just a soak dem at best.
Well, he's a tech. There's a legitimate word for
technocrat. Yeah.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. So yeah, I wasn't really like a full on leftist, but I was definitely like I was definitely more progressive.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a lot of fun like arguing with the conservatives and stuff, and it was around when COVID started. I mean, like I'm not gonna lie, I definitely said the N-word with my Sikh friends at around that time, but it was around when COVID started, and I really started getting into politics. Like around. It was a couple weeks before I got called out for it, which was very good timing. Where I was literally just like, I don't feel comfortable advocating for this stuff, and then turning around and just being a little bitch, like in private.
Yeah.
So then I just like completely cut that out, and then I think that kind of solidified my leftist turn. I started getting into it with Hassan Piker. I watched his videos. I forgot how he showed up. But I would watch his videos while I played Star Wars and a bunch of other video games. Like I love to just have stuff playing in my ears as I play video games. So it would be Hassan, and then from Hassan I got to Vosh, and then from Vosh it was just full on fucking. I would watch him like all day, every day, debate with commies, Nazis, and explain different facets of leftism. So yeah, it was around. It was definitely like literally a couple weeks before someone posted that video, where I was just like, hey, I'm here now and I'm here to stay. So yeah, I don't. Why don't you say how you got to where you are now?
I think it's more just I think I kind of like stepped back and I was like, you know what? I've kind of always at least held these general views and mindsets. I just kind of need now to embrace it. Because
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, for a
Be
while, I
who you
always
were
thought,
always destined to be.
yeah, like I've always thought, like, yeah, college should be free, healthcare should be free. That's some very fundamental left ideas. And then I was like, you know what? Maybe need to reform the police and question authority. Maybe bring the government to be more libertarian,
Mm-hmm.
less interventionist. And I would not call myself a socialist. I would call myself a democratic socialist.
Oh,
Oh,
that's
I,
socialist.
I mean, yeah. I mean, it's
Do you mean soak them?
no. Well,
Oh.
I don't think so.
The difference is democratic socialist, still capitalist. Democratic socialist is when government. No, socialist democrat is when government do thing, and democratic socialist is when workers do thing.
Yeah, and I think I'm kind of weirdly in both. So I think Bernie made an argument. It's when Bloomberg called him a communist,
Uh huh.
and he was just like, why shouldn't 20%? Why shouldn't the workers own at least like 20% of Amazon? You know, and I was
Uh
like,
huh.
yeah,
Yeah.
sure. You know, large because I've always also been against like large mega corporations, even back in like 2014, 2015.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like that. You know, they shouldn't rule the world.
Yeah.
uh, Obviously, I mean, like I would still consider myself more moderate. Definitely some leftist, let's say. You know, I don't think if I would like want to replicate any governmental system that currently exists in the world, I would definitely want something like a Denmark or a Norway. You know,
Mm-hmm.
who then they describe themselves as democratic socialists. So I think that's why I describe myself as democratic socialist.
Mm-hmm. I
You
think
know,
I'm not too sure about them, but I think they would still be socialist democrat. But either way, great to be
yeah,
here. Um,
yeah,
and now I guess we can sort of talk more about the problems with this tweet, and it's really, and this kind of idea, it's really just telling people like us who have had a very rocky road getting to where we are,
mm,
and a couple of scary moments where we probably could have been fascists. Um, uh, and people like me who were almost groomed. I'm going to use that word and I'm going to stand by it. Almost groomed into the sort of fascist or Nazi spaces. It's saying, "Hey, we don't want you. Get right back to fucking fascism because we don't trust you for the revolution or whatever." Right? And it's
yeah,
this idea that everybody who's in the revolution has to be squeaky clean. You can't have been a fascist because once a fascist, always a fascist. And I think the weirdest thing is that we're supposed to believe in restorative justice here on the left,
mm-hmm.
right? We're supposed to not engage in that essentialism. That's supposed to be a right wing thing. And yet, here we are saying that mass murderers should not receive the death penalty, should not receive life. They can still be restored. They still have hope, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you're a fascist, die, I
No,
guess.
get out.
Go, off to the gulags you go.
It's
What?
funny because there's actually a real life comparison to, and it's actually the when the Bolsheviks took over Russia.
Yeah.
Uh, because what happened was they took over, uh, and the Duma was supposed to have elections before the Bolsheviks arrived,
Mm-hmm.
and then what happened is, you know, Lenin was like, "Of course, we'll have elections. That's kind of the whole point."
Yeah.
And then they lost. They lost to like the social liberals at the time, and it's because, you know, Lenin basically walked in along with a lot of the other Bolsheviks, and they're like, "Hey, you guys fucking suck at your job. Why isn't the Tsar already dead?" You know, like,
Yeah.
and they're like, "All right, dick, like, fuck off. Like, we don't want you here." Uh, and also Lenin at the time seemed a little out of tune because Russia was not like in a terrible shape anymore.
Yeah.
So people were like, we don't need this anymore, Chief. You can go home.
Mm-hmm.
But that's another story for another time. But I mean, it's very similar. I mean, like remove the actual like election part, but like if you tell people like they're bad because of their past or like they're bad because of their existence, they're just going to accept that existence. Then
Yeah.
it's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Uh-huh.
If you
Yeah.
tell someone they're a fascist, they're going to probably start, especially if you tell them a lot, they're just going to start accepting that.
Yeah. And a lot of fascism is a lot of fascism, but a big component of fascism isn't so much an inherent belief in one thing, but an anti-left stance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you can definitely see that with the current administration. It's not so much like, hey, we're fighting for something. Like right-wing populism is often anti-left.
I mean, it's literally Trump's whole campaign strategy.
So,
it's
I don't
interesting
know like who you're. I just don't get the point. What's the point?
Yeah.
What's the point of saying, "Hey, you used to be a fascist, but now you're in the left," instead of embracing that and being like, "All right, let's get to work." Oh, you messed up here. Well, you're trying. Let's keep pushing you over until we have enough people who want a revolution and can spark a revolution. You're pushing them to a fascist area and a fascist revolution.
Yeah, it's
why do we want to lose?
Yeah, like
why do we want to lose so
really
bad?
It's just like we want to shoot ourselves in the foot and then complain.
Yeah.
And it's the same shit that happened in 2016. It's literally the reason why Trump got elected. It's because a lot of people on the left was just like, oh, Trump supporters are racist. And I think this was before, Trump kind of showed his true colors, really. Because, I mean, at the time, he was just like, hey, I'm anti-NAFTA and stuff. I want your jobs to stay. He was really running that, like...
He was more of a goofy old man racist than a I'm going to kill black protesters racist.
Yeah. He was more just like, Mexicans, they're silly. Those are his exact words. But, he was really more trying to attack Hillary left in trade and other policies like that, and he really ran with the corruption stuff, and it worked because people on the left were like, hey, if you trust this man, you're a racist, so don't vote for him. And then people were like, well, then they kind of just started believing Trump. They're like, you know what, maybe this guy's right. Or they were just so tired of the left, they're like, fuck, I'd rather have anything besides these people telling me I'm racist for another 8 years.
You literally had liberals who, when Kamala Harris was VP, they were like, well, it pisses off the Bernie bros. Who are we winning by being the most unsufferable fucking pieces of shit on the planet? Who are we winning over by saying, hey, we're just better than you inherently? I mean, we are. But who are we winning over by saying, if you weren't born with perfect politics, fuck you? It's so strange to blame someone for, again, I'm going to use it and I'm going to stick by it, their grooming.
Or just like their upbringing. Because sometimes I kind of have the personal belief that like you kind of both choose your political identity, but also it's shaped by your environment.
Yeah, nature versus nurture.
Yeah.
And that's not to say that there aren't people who don't grow up in conservative households. Like, everybody's story is different.
Yeah.
But I think that's something that we need to recognize and appreciate, and not throw a fuck you or I don't trust you for the revolution. Like, come on.
Like, a poor person who grew up in a more urban area is more likely to be left-leaning than a poor person who grew up in a rural area.
Yeah.
And if a poor person who grew up in a rural area, like, when they're like in their younger years, a conservative, but when they got to like higher education or just, became an adult, they got more left leaning. And then you tell them, oh, you were a conservative? Nah, dog. You're actually still a fascist. That's just a fact, though. So bye-bye.
Yeah.
And then they're like, all right, well, I guess I hate black people now. Like,
the fact that fascists are becoming leftists shows that we're starting to win.
Yeah.
And it's in spite of motherfuckers like you. not because of motherfuckers like you. Not you, Matt.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
Yes,
of
I was
course.
concerned for a second.
Yeah. I think that's all I have to say on the subject.
I guess
Final
to
thoughts?
conclude, I think, uh, and this has always been an issue. Let really judging people based on their past instead of their present. Uh, I mean, that's how we got cancel culture. And not understanding context and stuff like that. Which is weird because theoretically the left or leftists are like libertarian, so they're very much into individualism and individual stories, but also being collective as well.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess that doesn't matter if you said bad thing in the past.
Yeah.
Uh,
Uh,
and that's why people don't like the left sometimes.
mm-hmm.
Crazy, I know.
Stop trying to battle people who are closer to you on the political scale just because they aren't quite where you are or saying quite the things you want them to say. And let's focus on the impending threat of fascism that's looming closer and closer every day.
Yeah, we haven't won the war yet. We can't infight,
Yeah.
And that's a really big issue right now, especially. We're all like, fucking. We're too much of caring of our own values. Uh,
It's a moral superiority thing.
yeah,
And I want to look better for my friends because the left is a social space to these people.
Mm-hmm.
And again, that's fine because it is, and I'm not denying that, but we need to be able to separate that. We need to be able to separate this is my social space left and this is my political efficacy left.
Yeah. I don't think I have too much to say. I think we've said a lot. Cool.
Let's get into our final segment.
Yes. What have you been doing? Oh, shit.
Did you already sing it?
Yeah, I did.
Are you fucking kidding me, dude?
What
did you think the drum roll was for? You think I
don't know. I thought you were creating
why am I even here, dude? Like, what the fuck? You're just gonna ruin the show. Then I might as well just fucking see you later.
Well, I guess I'll answer the question. So I haven't really been doing much. School, work. I got some blisters on my feet. They kind of hurt. Right now I'm actually watching a comedy series by the name of Clone High, which premiered in 2002 on MTV. It's a animated adult cartoon about historical figures that were cloned and go to high school as teenagers. The best character is easily JFK. And the reason I'm watching it now is because it's back into relevancy because apparently it's getting rebooted. I'm not sure when it's supposed to come out, but I just know it's coming out. The show is pretty funny, a little weird, I would say, but I mean that's pretty standard for early 2000s or late 90s cartoons. They tend to be a bit weird. But yeah, if it's free on YouTube, just look up like Clone High season 1, full season, something like that, and it'll be the whole thing. Hey Juptej.
Hey Matt.
What have you been doing?
I'm so glad you asked. I've been continuing my movie marathon. Let me see what I've watched in the past week. When was the last time we did the podcast? Why does it feel like forever ago?
I don't know.
It feels
we
like
didn't do one.
Is it just me or does it feel like so much has happened in the past week?
I just feel like I've worked a lot.
It definitely feels long. Today's the 12th. 7 days ago was the 4th. It's so my entire concept of time is like completely flipped on its head. I don't know if I talked about Moonlight last week, but I watched Moonlight. I watched I'm Thinking of Ending Things. That movie is fucking weird, and I'm very excited to rewatch that. Have you seen that movie yet?
What movie?
I'm Thinking of Ending Things. It's on Netflix.
No, I've not.
Fucking nuts. I'm not going to talk about that too much. Just go ahead and watch that. I'll watch Your Name anime. Let me tell you, I'm not an anime boy. But a friend of the show, Monveer, he is. So he tried to get me into watching a couple anime movies. I've seen Your Name, and I've also seen another one. Can't remember the name of that, but
was it Whiplash?
No, anime. Ha.
Oh, anime. I thought you were talking about your movie list.
No, no, no. I watch Your Name, and I watch a different anime movie, but it's also pretty big. Um, but Your Name was just gorgeous. It was
Hmm.
a really, really good movie, and a really easy watch. And
Hmm.
I'm kind of kicking myself in the ass for kind of writing off an entire like medium
Genre. Yeah.
just because of the stigma around it. But yeah, Your Name was great. I might convert to animeism. Who knows? And then
Who
I
knows?
also watched Whiplash, which is probably in my favorites list now because holy shit, that movie was amazing. Um,
Correct.
it was so intense. Like each scene was just so like I had to take a breath afterwards, and I love movies that can do that. J.K. Simmons, big boy,
Amazing.
great
Is
boy,
he-
fantastic. Who's that other guy? Miles? What's his name?
Uh,
Miles?
I have no idea.
Um, why do I want to say Miles Teller? That is his name. His name's Miles Teller. Apparently, he's like a huge piece of shit.
Ah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, like a bunch of people on the set of Fantastic Four because he was in that Fantastic.
Kind of
Um,
forced.
they said he was just a giant piece of shit. So uh, that's always great.
Hmm.
Um, another thing that I've been doing, and I we announced this today, and I'm very excited about it, is we started up. Why don't I pull up the tweet? We started up a brand new series. New series alert! New series alert! Woo! 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 Woo!
All right, that's enough noise.
Here it is. I pulled up the tweet. The Meaty Beatty Project. Um, so if any of you on sick Twitter missed what was going on, um, uh, there was a lot of discourse around a Singh that endorsed a Republican, um, a Republican I think running for House in California, and the discourse got very toxic because hey, listen, I'm not a Republican. But I think we can challenge the idea without necessarily having to challenge their Sikhi. And I think the fact that so many were quick to jump to you can't be a Sikh if you're a Republican, it sucks. And again, it kind of ties into the conversation that we were having in this whole episode, which is that you can't just shut people out like that. I feel like you have to be able to have these conversations. You should be able to bring your ideas to the marketplace of ideas and defend them. And if you can't argue against the idea that being Republican is against Sikhi, which okay, again, I'm not a Republican, so I'm not going to make any stances on that. But basically, online discourse, as always, is toxic. But I feel like as Sikhs in a religious context, we should be above that, and we should make a greater effort to, as a community, talk about these issues in a way that are productive and in a way that we can actually learn instead of just you are not a Sikh, blah blah blah. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So very excited to start this project. The first topic is should Sikhs participate in electoral politics? Because I thought that was the real interesting discussion being had here. Not just so much he shouldn't have endorsed her because she's Republican, but one of the conversations being had by Juptej Singh was we shouldn't even participate in electoralism to begin with. So we have Juptej Singh, who is anti-electoralism, Gautam Singh, who classifies himself as a centrist, and Gananveer Singh Bannu, who, from all accounts, I believe is a neoliberal, but he will classify his stance more next Sunday. So that episode is coming out next Sunday, first episode of a brand new discussion series. And I'm very excited for that. So make sure to check that out when that comes out. And I think that's all I have to say about that.
Sounds really interesting. I'm excited to see it.
Hey Matt, what's going on in episode 20?
Something,
Something.
but they better tune in.
They better
That's all I
tune
gotta
in.
Yeah, if they want to see something big,
They better. Oh, we got something big planned for episode 20 now.
things.
That'll be the 26th of September.
Ooh, wow, yeah, it's close. Closer than I expected.
Yeah. We're gonna be making some changes. Some things weren't quite working out, so we're gonna do some things differently.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
That's right. And I think that's everything.
Yep.
You want to do the outro this week? Or do you think I should do it?
Sure, I'll do it.
Yeah, go ahead. Go, Matt.
Thank
Matt.
you again for listening. Oh,
Matt, just talk over me.
no.
Matt.
Oh, wait. I'll just wait till you're done.
Matt. Woo! Matt. Hey, Matt.
As we're saying, thank you again for listening to us talk about things. I hope the discussion was insightful, if not at least giving context in our lives. Please follow us on our respective social medias, Instagram, Twitter, etc. I don't remember what they are exactly for Juptej.
At Zero Budget Pod.
Thank you. Follow us personally, Juptej. Tag.
At Juptej on Instagram. At Juptej S on Twitter.
And my Instagram, Matthew_L_Hanks. I think that'll be all for today. Please have a wonderful day.
Make sure to like and subscribe and comment. Those really help us out with the algorithm. If you're listening on Spotify, make sure to follow. Those really help us out with the algorithm. And
Yes,
make sure
always.
to share. Hey, share what's
Yes.
going on here.
You know, we're really trying to have a good conversation with everyone. And I think the only way to have a conversation is to have people here to begin with.
Yeah.
So have a lovely day.
Have a lovely day.
Or a lovely evening or a lovely night. And we'll see you soon.
We'll see you all this Saturday and this Sunday for the new Meaty Beatty project. Thank you all.
Yes.
A goodbye.